Okay, so welcome to another session of Book Talk. Today we have with us Neena Sabnani. Thank you so much for being here, Neena. So before we dive right in, a quick introduction about our guest for today. Neena is an artist, storyteller, filmmaker. She has worked on a number of animated films and picture books, especially with Tulika. She's had a very long relationship with our publishing house, having worked with a number of books. She was also bestowed with the Rajat Kamal National Award in 2016 and was also awarded the Little Big Book Award for Lifetime Achievement for Illustration from Tata Trust in 2018. She's worked on a number of books and films like Mukundan Riya's Stitching Stories, We Are the Dancing Forest, and we will be getting into that and a lot more in this discussion. So thank you so much for being here, Neena. It's so great to have you here.
Thank you. Thank you, Sangeeta.
So, just to kick us off, I want to first, introduce everyone to the newest book, to the latest book you worked on with Tulika, which is The Block Printed Tiger, which was also the first book, yes, The Block Printed Tiger, which is also the first book in the Tulika Graphics imprint. So special in so many ways. I want to first ask you, being the newest and of course a part of a new imprint, what has your experience been like working on this particular book?
Well, first of all, thank you very much for inviting me to this book talk, and I'm very happy to be here. I loved the text, when Radhika shared this with me soon after we had just finished We Are the Dancing Forest. So I was really surprised that another book just came my way. I just was so enthralled by the text. It was so witty, so charming, and it was all about Jaipur. So Jaipur has is literally a city that's tied to my childhood.
Okay.
All my summer vacations, till I was 13, I used to go to Jaipur every summer vacation because my grandmother's house was there.
Okay.
And then after that, I started studying in Jaipur. I went to, my high school and everything. I finished in MGD. And so I was familiar with Bapu Bazaar. I mean, I had seen Bapu Bazaar since I was 6 years old.
Oh, wow.
And, so my association with the city and the markets was very, very strong. So I really like that familiarity. Then, the fact that I will be working with cloth, because this cloth is, another something that I've been working with, from my previous work. And it's something that I wanted, it gave me an opportunity to explore even more, on cloth. How does cloth behave, and, how does it make an image which already is made of some motifs and images becomes another image. So it's kind of interesting. And
Yeah.
it was great, to work as usual with Radhika and Dia and Piyush, who I've been working with for a long time. So yeah, it was a great way of doing something. If you want me to talk about the process, I can say a little bit.
So that is something I wanted to come to, before jumping into that, because what's interesting, and I just want to show a spread quite quickly,
Sure.
because
Sure.
you used like this lovely collage of fabrics,
Mm-hmm.
and there is this illustration of the tiger, and it all kind of just comes well, so well together. And I really wanted to ask you, how did you kind of go about visualizing the pages for this book? And in general, how do you go about, visualizing a book? Is there a method to it?
Yeah, I mean, I like, because I don't only create the images, I like to design the whole
Yeah.
book, from the cover to the the end sheets to the title page to, how the text. So I like it when I know the size of the book, I know the pagination. So I like to have the text with me so I can interpret it. I read it very closely, and then I see what is being implied, what is being suggested, which what is obvious, what is something else, and also my own associative memories of these places, so how they kind of kick in. So I I had the, and because I've worked with Tulika so many years, so we have got into, there's a rhythm by which we work. So for a long time, we just don't talk to each other, like just I'm reading, I'm like planning something, and then I just lay it out. So I do, as I'm reading, whatever comes to, my imagination, I try to doodle and sketch it out. And then place the text accordingly, and then so that's how it kind of works. So, for example, like in this page, I know you showed another one, but in this
Yeah, I
one,
know.
you
Oh
know,
yeah, yes. This is. I mean,
so
all the
here
pages.
it says, "Could this market be haunted?" So this kind of suggests a ghost like. So I kind of made the, I didn't want to lose the exuberance of, the market. So
Yeah.
then I wanted to continue with the textiles. So then I made the tiger as a ghost, like, but I kept his rose so that he's like between real and, fictitious, so to speak. I
No.
love the tiger. Yeah, he's such a funny fellow.
Yes, he is. Yeah, and I think kudos to Joanna Robello, who's written this book and
Amazing.
in such
Yeah.
lovely verse.
To show, I mean, to have somebody who is known to be powerful, strong, to be so self-reflexive, to be so, like vulnerable. He's so worried about his looks. He's willing to do a makeover, and and he has a rose, so there's a softness to him, a madness, sort of, yeah.
And all of it honestly comes across so well in both the text and the illustrations, which is great, which they just really complement each other so well. But I think another thing what I find really interesting about your journey, Nina, is that you're an animation filmmaker, along with working with picture books. And even if I had to talk about some of the books you worked with Tulika, say Mukund and Riaz and Stitching Stories, which both were actually animated films first, which you converted to the picture book format. And both of them in their own ways were already very well acclaimed internationally and nationally. Mukund and Riaz especially, which is based on your father's memories around partition and is about these two friends dealing with that. What do you keep in mind when you're adapting a story from the screen to a book format?
So in a film, we have many elements at work, at play. We First of all, it's a temporal media, so it's in a sequence, and the whole screen is filled with the image. So there's a lot of space for the image, and then you have many other things, contributing to the storytelling. So you have the movement, sound, and voice, maybe music, so it creates a mood, and that sort of a thing. But for the book, it's you have to choose very carefully, which images are the quintessential image that's going to deliver the text, and you have to create room for the text. And the text just can't be something in a column on the side and the image on the left. I mean, they've got to speak to each other in some way, and contribute to each other. So that was very fascinating for me, because I started my career as an illustrator like that only, from a film to book. I've never done book to film.
Yeah, which
So
is
it's
very
always,
curious actually, because everyone's about book to screen. You're doing screen to book, which is honestly, I
yeah,
think, is great.
because primarily I am a filmmaker, so I work in that medium. But making it into the book is also very, very exciting, and I've learned a lot from Tulika and Radhika in particular, about this. The thing in a film, you can't pause, to appreciate some details,
Yeah,
because you have to deliver the story. You can't say,
true.
"Oh, look at this texture," or "Look at this form," which you can do in the book. And the book allows you to pause forever, indefinitely. So that merits that reflection and that pause as such. And in the case of Mukund and Riaz, see, the films were made for generic audience, not specifically for children. But the book, because it was a picture book, it was for 5+ kids, you know. So the challenges of whether to show violence, how to represent truth, you know, how to remain truthful and yet not do, you know, things that will aggravate a child, or you know, instill hatred, or you know, inherit
Yeah.
some pain of that kind. So it was, yeah, that way. um, for Mukund and Riaz, that was the one. And in Stitching Stories, I think what I really enjoyed in the book, while in the film, of course, lots of people like to watch the film and they're really moved by it, because there's a lot of, you know, you hear the actual voice of the people
Yeah.
speaking and all of that. But in the book, we were able to add something about these makers, you know, at the end of the book. And for people who would be curious about Kutch, about this Kala Raksha Trust, and the kind of work that they were doing, and the kind of work they did post-earthquake, all that you have no time to tell in the film. There you are just telling the story, you know. So there are two different paradigms, you know. The film is in a timeline, you know, and the book is in space, you know. You it's like an art gallery. You just wait, you watch, you read, you know.
Yeah.
Of course, there's temporality in this too. You're going from one page to the other, but you're going at your own pace.
Yeah. And actually, I just want to take a minute to show Mukund and Riaz, which is a lovely book again. And it's a very heartfelt story, I must say. And, you know, just to quickly show a spread to give everyone an idea of what the artwork is like in the book. Again, very interesting, very fascinating. And I think it's just amazing the way you're able to bring visuals and stories in such a manner, and it's so powerful. It really is. You also work with a lot of Indian folk art in, you know, a lot of the books you've done. Again, be it for a Bill story, which was with Bill Art, my Gandhi story, which was Varli Art, and again, We Are the Dancing Forest, which was Gond Art. What do you find most appealing and challenging about working with Indian folk art, especially for picture books?
I'm just so stumped, you know. I mean, like, so taken up by the way they imagine their worlds, you know, and the fact that how they tell their stories with images in a very precise and yet so much exuberance, you know. So, like, if you see Gond Art, or Wheel Art, it's so exuberant. It's made up with either dashes or with dots, but it communicates so much, you know. And the Varli Art is so controlled, you know. It's very minimal, but yet there is a palpable, you know, what is it called? Palpable, you know, life in that. And I think it comes from something that is honed over years, you know, through generations. So it's an inherited art, and therefore it's not done by one person. You know, when one person does, it takes a long time to become a style, you know, and to have a beauty of that style and not a template, you know. So that is something that really intrigues me, and also how they perceive the world, you know, how they look at something, whether it is scale, whether it's color, you know, the form itself is the very essence of something they capture.
Yeah.
And it doesn't look anywhere like it's not, you know, mimetic.
Yeah.
But it is definitely very clearly saying what it is, you know, and very close to, like, when I traveled with Sher Singh to Madhya Pradesh, I saw that the houses that he had painted, or the murga he painted, looks exactly like what's in his house, you know. So he is observing and you know, turning that into an image which is abstract as well as very real, you know. So that is something I feel that aesthetic, the visual tradition, and also, you know, If you asked me, does your father paint? I said no, But in these communities, everybody does it, So it's not something genetic, but it is something that's inherited, and that's something that intrigues me. So I mean, that's what. So I'm learning, from about image making, about storytelling.
Yeah.
So that's what I enjoy working with them,
And they're very powerful forms of
Very
storytelling. You see,
Yes.
I think again, if I may show, we are the dancing forest again. And also, I need to mention that this book has been listed in the White Ravens list this year by the International Youth Library, which we're very, excited and happy about. And if I may again show a spread, I think this is again a really pretty. I think all the pages in this book are just beautiful, honestly speaking. And again, with such lovely, words by Devashish Makhija and Raj Shekhar, which is again taken from an Adivasi song from the Telangana community. So it's just lovely to see how Indian folk art's really coming through in storytelling today, and especially in children's literature. It's just so fascinating and amazing. But you also did a PhD on the Kawad style of storytelling, which is a Rajasthani form of storytelling. And you also again did 2 books with Tulika, which one was a fold-out book called Home, and the other one called It's All the Same. And just to give the audience a sort of idea as to what Kawad is, it's like this. This is an image from Nina's book. Oh, yes, perfect.
I have a small one.
Yes.
It opens.
Yes.
Of course, it's not so small. The one that the storytellers use is much bigger.
Yeah.
But yeah.
But what drew you to this particular style of, storytelling?
Well, when I first saw my first cover, which was like some 25 years ago or something, I was like that child, how children actually, when I show a child this book, this cover, they do the same thing. They want to open it, they want to see everything. So that's what I was doing. And then a third artist friend of mine, Kalyan Joshi, he told me about this cover being a living tradition, and that actually it is practiced, but not much is known about it. And he introduced me to the card makers, and then they introduced me to the storytellers, who then introduced me to their patrons. So it was very fascinating. When I started my PhD, I thought I'll work with the card, because it's something I knew that will hook me for like many years. I still work with those people on something or the other, So then what we found in the cover is, because of the research, that it's a beautiful thing, but it's not just to, it's not a shrine that is opened up and said, okay, here is the cover. It's actually bringing a community together, because they're reciting the genealogies, the patrons are represented in the cover. So, they feel a part of the shrine. They feel part of, close to divinity as such, So I thought that if we made a book which would therefore also do similar things like this book Home,
Yes,
it is
yes.
bringing, it is nothing but just images with a few, sort of talking points. But what happens is that children, more than like listening to stories, they like to tell stories. So they kind of point at an image and tell stories. So it's a very interesting platform for adults and children to collaborate or get together, and for adults to learn what is going on in the child's mind, which he will tell through a story, or she will tell through a story, rather than tell you in abstract things like, I don't like this, or I am upset. They will not say that, but they will tell you a story in which somebody has a problem, and then you've got to get a sense of it. So that way I feel, and we did a lot of, not just me, other people have also, tried the book with children, and every time the same image, you get a completely different story.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Yeah, it's incredible. So that's what. So I wanted to bring that rather than just have some some curiosity, like a curious thing, but make it more in resonance with what the coward actually implies. Yeah.
Because it's very engaging, honestly, for anyone who has a copy of Homer, has seen it. It's so interactive and it's so interesting, and it's very well done, and it's I think a very fun way to engage also with the story. Yes.
Kids play with each other.
Yeah, it's a lovely, it's such a fun book, honestly, because I remember it was one of the first books that caught my eye when I came into Tulika, and it
Yeah,
was
and it is everywhere, and even I don't know where is what anymore. But it's like it's supposed to be more inclusive. Sort of, this is every
yeah,
family, so all kinds of families, so that children can identify with their family rather than seeing a textbook family of mother, father, children. You know, there are so many kinds of families, and if that is, or so many kinds of homes, and if those things are not represented in a book, then a child thinks, okay, that is normal, I am not normal. you know.
yeah.
So that was also the idea of home.
And it does that beautifully, honestly. And now we're kind of coming to the end of this session.
Sure, sure.
So lastly, what I want to ask you is, you've also, in a lot of the books you've worked on, you've worked with other artists, you've collaborated, with other illustrators or artists. um, so what is that process for you? How do you go about establishing a vision before starting a project? Or is it very spontaneous and free flowing that, I'll do something, then you riff off me, I will riff off you, and we'll, see how it goes? How do you go about it?
See, each collaboration has been of a different nature. So, for instance, the one working with the embroidery artists in Kutch, it was because I'm starting with the film first, right? So it started with them approaching me to make a film about them and their art.
Okay.
So. So there was already, I didn't have to, go in there as an outsider. They already wanted me, and also they were, I spoke their language, and it was very easy to speak to each other and to communicate and to share. I also went through the earthquake like them. My parents also migrated from Sindh into India, I mean, into Rajasthan and into Gujarat. So we had a lot of common ground. So it was very easy to work, And of course, I am very blatant about my admiration for their work. So that also opens up opportunities to talk. And with the coward artists, I was working with them for so many years. I
Yeah.
didn't make the film or the book immediately. I mean, I was 2-3 years into my research, and then I did. So there was already, the ice was broken. Uh, with Sher Singh and Venkat, Sham. What was interesting was because they have this mutual respect for each other, that we are able to work together, and very easily they will tell, not saying it, it's not really doing it, and can you think about this? So it's very that kind of collaboration. I think any collaboration becomes very rich and heartwarming if we respect each other, and also be critical of each other, not just say, oh, lovely, lovely, and then it looks fake. I mean, there were things that I would tell Venkat and say, why are you looking so sad? All your human beings are looking so sad. All your other things are so vibrant, So we would have such conversations with Sher Singh, with Satyanarayan Suthar, who's a covered artist. We had lots and lots of fun, He would tell me things like, I said, why did you put this color? I didn't want this color. you change it in Photoshop. आपको तो आता है ना, आप change कर लेना, you know. So there was that kind of nice camaraderie, you know.
Yeah, and I
That
think that's
was
always great, to work with someone. That's amazing. But yeah, now we've kind of come to the end of this session. Thank you so much for being here, Neena. It was an absolute pleasure.
Thank you so much. Yeah.
Thank you so much. It was really nice talking to you and really understanding your process on how you go about visual storytelling. And I'm sure people who watch this will also kind of have a lot of take-home value from this for sure. Also, to everyone who attended, thank you so much for joining us today. And stay tuned. Tulika has a really fun Christmas calendar of events coming up. So stay tuned to all our social media channels to know more about them. Thank you once again, Neena. Thank you, everyone, for being here. Have a wonderful evening.
Thank you. Bye bye.